Hello, welcome back. It's February. It's February now, but we're gonna do January's wrap up. Yeah, I have been playing about with my camera settings, so in theory, book covers will now be the right way round. If not, I will actually fix that in editing. But also, I noticed that I'm in focus, but my background is blurry. I'm not sure what's happening here, but we're just gonna go with it and accept that this is what's happening. But yeah, January's reading. I have had a really, really good start to my reading year. I don't know what my average rating is right now, but I can tell you it's 4 point something. It's definitely it's been up there. I have finished 6 books, which was the most I finished at all in any given month in 2023. I also DNF too, because this is definitely a year of being kind to ourselves, and DNFing is a kindness because I am not forcing myself through a book that I'm not enjoying. So yeah, so we just jump straight into it. We'll talk about the 2 books that I did DNF. So the first one was, oh, interesting. Okay, put it in front of me. That's how we're going to do this. The first one was The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. This is a contemporary rom-com with a hospital setting. It is a shifter romance, but it is also Omegaverse. It was fine, at best. It was fine. I've read enough shifter and Omegaverse rom-coms and romances to know what I like and to know what I don't like. And it's hard. I can't say I disliked this book, but it just didn't do anything for me. I didn't enjoy the tension. Characters were making decisions that I just didn't get on with. It felt like a lot of decisions were made for plot advancement rather than because it felt natural to the characters. We've got 2 very clever characters making pretty stupid decisions, and I just didn't really get on with it. What I would say is this is a very good introduction book, as in this would be a really good introduction to Omegaverse or to shifter romances if that's something you've not really explored before, but you're curious. This would be a really good dip your toe in that water book. It's so as a premise of it. I really don't know what's going on with my phone right now. But it's fine. But yeah, this is basically, we've got our 2 main characters who basically start fake dating because they both kind of need something out of it. For her, she gets her grandmother off her back. Her grandmother's constantly trying to set her up on blind dates that are all terrible. He's just been outed as an alpha to the board and basically needs to produce a mate to prove that, he's not like this unrestricted alpha, this unmated alpha, wandering, roaming the halls, essentially, buying into sort of the archaic ideas that, without a mate to tamper his hormones and his pheromones, he's just going to go wild. Yeah. But it's also set in a world where everyone knows that shifters exist. We all know alphas and omegas exist. But we don't know a lot about alphas and omegas. They're there, but they're relatively rare. And it was the lack of knowledge of Omega verse within this universe is a plot point, and it's a great way we're exploring it as part of the plot, and it's integral to there, and I think it's a great way of introducing it to someone who's maybe not as familiar. But what I will say is, if you are a reader who, like myself, has read a decent chunk and knows what they're getting into, it's just kind of annoying. Yeah, it follows a standard trope. We're fake dating. They start they basically progress to friends with benefits, are, becoming very attracted to each other, not quite understanding, and goes from there. I'm assuming that at some point there would be a miscommunication and it would all get resolved, but I only got about halfway through it before I was like, you know what, I've got better trash to read. But yeah, that's it. That is The Fake Mate. The next one I DNF'd, which I was surprised I ended up DNFing this one, because when I picked it up, I was really enjoying it. And I don't realistically have any criticisms of it. I put it down, I started something else, and I just kept not wanting to pick it back up. And that's kind of all there is to it. But that is If I Have to Be Haunted by Miranda Sun. This is a YA fantasy romance about a girl who can see ghosts, and one of her classmates turns up dead, and we're trying to kind of investigate what's happened. We basically also we also have a sort of like a week to kind of bring him back to life. He ends up sort of like in a semi-dead state where he is a ghost, but it won't be permanent until a week's passed. But if they can find the cure within that week, absolutely brilliant. At the moment, they're sort of wandering around in like the ghost realm, and what I'm going to say is this would make an excellent TV show. If this ever got picked up to be adapted, I would totally watch it. It reads almost episodic. Like, as I'm reading it, I could, like, from very early on, I'm reading it going, okay, I've just read that episode. Right, okay, that's that episode. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with the characters. It's covering sort of things like generational expectations, family expectations, different class issues. Different classes have different issues. It's enemies, rivals to lovers, and antagonistic to lovers. Honestly, I was having a good time with it. It was reading a wee bit younger than I maybe anticipated, which I'm beginning to realise is happening with a lot of the Fairy Loot books I pick up. I have actually now cancelled my Fairy Loot, and I have an Illumicrate subscription instead because I'm preferring the selection I get from them, quite honestly. But yeah, I'm gonna say, like, although I've DNF'd this, it's a soft DNF because I think that chances are I will go back to this at some point. Just not right now. Yeah, that's all there is to it. Sometimes you're allowed to put a book down, not because you're not enjoying it, but because it's just not working for you at that exact moment in time, which is what this one is. Cool. But let's talk about the books that I did finish. So the first one that I finished was My Roommate's a Vampire. I had to think about the title there. One second. Who is the author? By Jenna Levine. This I read on New Year's Day. There is a vlog up for it, so you will see my thoughts there. So I won't say too much about it, but this was just a really fun... I read it in a day, so it's a really fun, quick read. About a girl who is in not so great financial position, looking for somewhere to stay. This room comes up that's super cheap, like alarmingly cheap, but she doesn't have much other choice. So she rents this room. Her roommate, he's just a bit odd. She doesn't really see much of him, and he's just not quite right. But eventually we find out that actually it's because he's kind of weird, because he's a vampire who's been asleep for the last 100 years and doesn't really know how the modern world works. We end up in a position where we're trying to sort of like teach him about the modern world, all the things he needs to know. We've got cute scenes where it's like, go practice ordering coffee from a cafe. And it's just really cute. I really enjoyed the chemistry between the two characters. Absolutely wonderful. And naturally, they end up falling for each other, and there's a little bit of drama towards the end. But yeah, overall, it was just like a really fun, cozy read. And if you are just looking for something really light and cute and fun and fluffy, My Roommate's a Vampire. 100% recommend. It was such a good read. Then I read the book that's probably tied for my favourite book of the year so far. It's my favourite new book because it's tied with a reread, but that is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I've probably just butchered that, but there you go. This is a figure skating romance. It is slow burn, such slow burn, but we are following. This is ridiculous. I absolutely adore books, but I can never remember characters' names. Unless I've reread it like a billion times, like Robin Hobb, I can tell you that my character's fits. You know, don't ask me the main character's name. I stopped paying attention to their name. Pay attention to all the emotion and the tension and the drama that goes along with it. But yeah. So, tangent aside, we are following Jasmine and Ivan. Jasmine is... so they're both pairs figure skaters, but they've never skated with each other. They skate at the same rink, they train at the same rink, and they've got a very antagonistic relationship to begin with. It is, they cannot be in the same room together for more than 5 minutes without snarking and throwing and like hurling insults at each other. Jasmine, the previous season, was dropped by her ex-partner, skating partner, and is now sort of old enough. We're in our mid-20s. They're both like mid to late 20s at this point. So it's far enough in her career that she really needs to be contemplating, is this it? Is this my competitive career? Is it done? Do I need to start thinking about like moving into coaching or the next progression in my skating career? Ivan, also worth noting, Jasmine has never won gold before. So, yeah. Ivan has won a string of golds. Sorry, I noticed it was blurring and I'm really confused by my camera right now. But yeah, no, Ivan has won a string of golds, but he's also had a string of partners. So his latest partner, we don't really find out what happens to her, I don't think. But yeah, he's in need of a partner. And he's, how to put this? For reasons, they approach Jasmine, Ivan and his coach, they approach Jasmine and say, look, for a year, just for this season, partner with Ivan, you'll get your gold. Ivan gets a partner. That's the deal. Can you do it? This is basically her Hail Mary. This is her last chance, so, you know, we go for it. We try it. And so the book is now following them over the course of the season, building up to their first major competition. And it is following their relationship as they go from like really barely being able to be on the ice without wanting to kill each other, and watching it develop. That this is a sports romance. These are our main characters. It is not a spoiler to say these are the two that end up together. But watching that progress, and it's just, the author's done it in such a way that it just feels so organic. It's never a case of, oh, something happened, a coin flips and suddenly they realise that they're actually mad about each other. It's watching it sort of like slowly develop, them both thought out towards each other. They are both kind of messed up in their own ways. They both have baggage and like mental shit that they really need to work through. And it's handled just so wonderfully. Personally, I think it was just handled so wonderfully in that there was the danger that this could become a fix-it romance. It could be a, you know, oh, I'll fix you. Like, he doesn't fix her, she doesn't fix him. They push each other to becoming the best version of themselves, but never in a way that implies that they were broken or they needed to change something. They push each other to become the best version of themselves by making it perfectly clear to each other that there's nothing wrong with you and you don't need to be fixed. I love you how you are. You don't need to be fixed. I just want to be part of your world. And it's just so wonderful. I could wax lyrical about this for so long. Add to that, it's a figure skating romance, and your girl is a massive figure skating fan, and a lot of the figure skating details just came across as really well researched. On a side note, if like me you're a massive figure skating fan and you do know what all of the competitions referenced are, it might get a little annoying when the names get changed. But, you know. So it's just like small details like that, but quite frankly, that's my biggest niggle about this book. It's pretty easy to say that I give this one 5 stars, and this is one I will reread again and again, I think. I absolutely adore this. I do want to read more about this author, just to see, is this a one-off? Am I going to enjoy more of her stuff? But yeah, absolutely, absolutely adored from Ivan with Love, from Lukov with Love. Next, I read Mad About You by Vary McFarlane. I had to look up how to pronounce the author's name. Okay, my camera's really doing my head in now. My mum's name is spelt this way, but she pronounces it Mary. But I know the traditional way is Vary, with the pronouncing it with a V. I believe the author pronounces it traditionally with the V, so it's Vary McFarlane. But if at any point I refer to her as Maddie McFarlane, you understand why. This is basically about a wedding photographer who, the book starts off, like the opening chapter of the book is she's at a wedding, we're getting ready for the bride's entrance, but the groom has vanished. And it starts off with the best man coming up to her being like, yeah, no, he's not turning up. And now I need to go tell the bride. Great start. Our Harriet, our main character, when we start off, she is seeing kind of the world's most boring guy. They go off to sort of like a country house for a weekend away to celebrate his parents' wedding anniversary. He proposes, she turns him down, and now she needs to find somewhere else to live. Because, yeah, she can't keep living with him. It's not going to happen. She moves in with Cal. And this is basically exploring I'm just going to read you guys the back of the book because I really enjoyed this, but I'm really struggling for how to describe it. Harriet is running away from everything. Getting married, her boyfriend's family, her past. A dream house share seems like the perfect place to hide, but unlike her housemate, Cal is no stranger from running away himself. He is also hiding secrets of his own. Can these two take a crazy risk, face the past, and finally find a reason to stay? It implies it's going to be like this really cute, cozy rom-com, but the themes that it deals with are definitely deeper. We are dealing with themes of abusive relationships, finding yourself, being strong in who you are. Yeah, like I recommend it. It's a really, really good read. I think I gave it 4 stars. Editing Amy, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're going to do with this segment, but good luck. Anyway, moving on. After that, I had a reread. I posted my favourite romances video, and oh my god, I just wanted to reread all of them, but I did end up picking and rereading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I adore this. very safe to say I gave it 5 stars again. My cat's been at it. This is why I can't have nice things, because my cat is a chewer. But yeah, this follows Kath, who goes off to college. We find her... We join Kath on first page. It's day 1 of college. She's just moved into the dorm. Her twin has very much pushed and said, no, we are not going together. We're going to separate dorms, separate like buildings. Because Ren, Kath's twin, kind of just wants her independence and wants to explore that a bit, which is fair enough. But Kath is the ultimate unsociable introvert. All she wants to do, like, she doesn't even want to be in college because that is just stressful and there's so much people, and that's like the ultimate social stress and awkwardness, and oh dear lord, I do not want to have to deal with that. But she will. But realistically, all she wants to do is just be sitting at home writing fanfiction about her favourite characters. I can relate to that, okay? I went to uni, it was terrifying because I am also an introvert, and there were so many times where maybe not writing fanfic, but I just wanted to be sitting at home reading it. But throughout the course of the book, she basically gets adopted / forcibly befriended by her roommate. Has one of the best lines where it's, I think Kath's going on about, she's like, I preferred it when you didn't like me, and we didn't talk, and her flatmate's like, her roommate's like, yeah, I preferred that too, but you're so pathetic. I need to look after you now. We're friends. Deal with it. Her roommate obviously is a bit of an extrovert, and it is like that classic tale of the extrovert just adopting the introvert. But what I absolutely love about this is that no one ever tries to fix Kath. It's not a case of, oh, we'll cure you of your introverted ways. It's more, it's like, we get it, that's who you are. We're going to look after you. We're going to push you out of your shell. We're going to push you out of your comfort zone and test your boundaries, but we're never going to like try and make you into someone you're not. And through her roommate, we are introduced to... I adore him, but don't ask me his name. Oh my god. Levi! I was going with Lev, and I'm like, it's not Lev. Levi. Who is the roommate's friend, maybe boyfriend. It's very unclear to begin with. And it's just watching relationships blossom throughout. This book basically covers first year of university, college, but watching all the relationships blossom there, as well as dealing with the intricacies of how do you identify yourself. We see Ren struggle to, be her own person rather than a twin. We also see their life at home, how their dad is struggling, how they as young cadres have had to deal with that. Their dad is, there comes out, he's bipolar and not always on his medication, which obviously has made it not ideal growing up for the girls. And honestly, I just absolutely adore this. It is wonderful. The writing, Rainbow Rowell has such a way of writing that it captivates you from page 1. This is, so it is YA, but this is the kind of YA where it doesn't fall into all of the standard tropes. It covers much more serious themes, but honestly, the way it's written, a 14-year-old and a 40-year-old could come out of it with an amazing reading experience. I absolutely adore this book. I recommend it to basically everybody. If you are looking for character-driven, excellent character work in a character-driven novel, don't look any further. Just do yourself a favour and go read Fangirl. There. But yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 2 left. That makes sense. So the next 2 books that I finished were my 2 audiobooks. The first, well, what did I finish first? First one I finished was Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. This one I started months ago. I started this one months ago, and I got to the point where I only had like an hour and a half left, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and I could not tell you why. I really enjoyed this. This is an Arthurian legend retelling, but following Merlin. So this first book in the series follows Merlin from when he was a little boy of like 4 or 5 all the way up to basically Arthur's conception. It is wonderfully written. It's really nice seeing it from Merlin's point of view, because the vast majority of your Arthurian retellings, oddly enough, focus on Arthur. How bizarre. Sorry. So it was nice having that from a different perspective. We're seeing how Merlin came into his powers, how he grew up, how a lot of what was perceived to be magic and miracles by him was actually just him. Merlin is a, surprisingly smart guy. And it is just sort of like seeing him use his brain to sort of like, not trick, but like convince people. But that said, Merlin is not without magic, and he does have this incredible foresight. So he can sort of see where things are going, or not necessarily see the future, but he'll just know things. Yeah, was a really, really enjoyable listen. I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. I think I will, but not anytime soon. I will say by the end of it, even though I knew about what goes on with Arthur's conception, I'd kind of forgotten about it. So the last hour and a half, 2 hours are basically Merlin and Uther conspiring to rape someone. And like, I understand that's what the legend is, and I respect Mary Stewart for sticking with it and not adapting it and changing it. It is also worth bearing in mind, I think this book was written in 1970, so this content was, I don't want to say acceptable, but But I will say, like, as a modern listener, it was a bit harder to listen to. I think if I'd been reading it, I could have like quickly skimmed it and I might have gotten on a bit better with it. But the ending did sort of put a damper on my listening experience with it. So I'm not sure how I'm rating it so far. Definitely something I'm going to continue with because I do really enjoy her writing style. I think Mary Stewart is definitely an author I want to explore more of. But yeah, it tempered it a little bit. So, sorry, but a very runny nose. Yeah, it's just something to bear in mind that if you are familiar with the Arthurian legend and, you are familiar with how Arthur was conceived, it's not glossed over. It's not graphic, we're not in the chamber when it happens, but it was definitely an interesting point of view, basically experiencing two men plot to figure out how to make this happen. I will say at times, early on, Merlin, it's like, I preferred younger Merlin. As he grows older, you can see him sort of like becoming just that wee bit more detached from humanity. And so he's maybe not quite as sympathetic or empathetic to the goings around. You can see him sort of becoming sort of like, not quite the chess master, but I'm not saying that, people are becoming pawns to him, but it's also, you can see that he's seeing more of it, oh, this needs to happen, so I need to figure out how to make this happen, rather than just figuring out how things happen organically. I'm probably explaining that really badly, but yeah. It was an experience. I'm glad I did it. I will definitely continue at some point. I'm just not racing to continue it. And then the last book in January that I finished was this camera. I don't know what I've done. Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. Although I'm holding the physical book for you guys to see, I did listen to this one in the end. I'm glad I did. The narrator was actually really good, did a really good job with like distinct different voices. But this is following Shiori, who is princess of the realm, and she has been cursed by her stepmother to basically wear a enchanted bucket on her head, so no one can see or no one can recognize who she is. Her brothers have been transformed into, believe it or not, 6 cranes. They can. So we're basically following the story of Shiori trying to figure out how to break this curse. Shiori has magic, but she doesn't have access to the magic while she's cursed. And if she speaks any words out loud, for every word or noise she makes, one of her brothers dies. So yeah, this is basically that's the premise of it. We gotta break the curse, free the brothers, defeat the evil stepmother. Obviously there is more to it than that. It's a lot more nuanced than that. I really enjoyed how this one ended. I enjoyed that twist. You know, not everything is as it seems. Lessons have definitely been learned. We've had a lot of character growth. This was an absolute joy to listen to. I had a really, really good time with this one. I really enjoyed the characters. All the characters feel distinct and fleshed out. We see relationships build with some characters that just are absolutely wonderful. I am excited for the next one. This next one is definitely going to be more dragon heavy. I can't even remember what it's called. What's the next one called? The Dragon's Promise, I think, is the next one. So naturally, it's dragons do feature throughout this one, but they're going to become a lot more prominent, I think, in the next one. So I am excited to see where that goes. I'm not sure. It's not going to be my next audio because I don't want to have like too much of a good thing, I guess. But I will definitely finish this duology this year. I'm excited to continue with it. Yeah, that's me. That was January. I feel like I'm running out of steam a bit. Running out of steam a little bit. But there we have it. That was my January. It was, you know what, it was a really good start to the reading year. I think, according to Storygraph, I was a little over 2,000 pages. I think going forward, rather than like focusing on, oh, I read this many books or that many books, because this year, I think it definitely was put a hamper on my reading last year, because if I'd only finished like 2 or 3 books, I was like, oh, I only read 2 or 3 books and I wasn't thinking about it like in terms of like maybe 1 or 2 of those books were a bit chunkier or not. So I think, not that I really want to be tracking how much I'm reading, but when I do inevitably start looking at stats and things, as I do, I want to focus more on my page count, and I'm hoping by doing that it means I will be more likely to pick up some of the chunkier books on my TBR shelves, because I've definitely not been reading chunky books as such lately. And by chunky I mean like my 600 plus pages. So yeah, but that said, I think, taking into account I don't quite know how I'm going to be rating the Mary Stuart A Crystal Cave, it's probably going to be at least a 3.5 star. So I'm definitely, you know what, I've enjoyed, with the exception of my 2 DNFs, and I didn't let myself like really get bogged down in those. I've enjoyed everything I've picked up. I don't want to say I've got my reading mojo back, but I mean, it's the 4th or 5th of February. I'm losing track. I have already finished a book. I'm partway through another book. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying my reading this year. But yeah, I'm going to end here before I ramble and just drivel off again. Let me know how your January went. Have you had any really good reads? Any new favorites so far? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.